Hello and welcome to you all. Whether you're watching us live or watching the recording later on, we're very glad to have you with us. My name is Heather. I'm Senior Communications and Campaigns Manager with Lloyd's Register Foundation. Today in this webinar, we're going to be sharing information about Lloyd's Register Foundation's newly launched Maritime Connected funding offer. Over the next hour, we'll give you an introduction to the work of Lloyd's Register Foundation, as well as go into the Maritime Connected funding offer in more depth. Don't worry, we've left plenty of time for questions with the team. So please, throughout this webinar, do add your questions to the Q&A function found along the top of this team screen next to the chat function. Please put your questions in that tab rather than the chat function, and we will get to as many of them as we can at the end of this presentation. All the questions we answer today and those that we may not get time to cover will be added to a frequently asked questions section on our website for the Maritime Connected funding offer. Just as a reminder for those of you just joining, AI bots are not going to be allowed into this meeting because it's a recording. There's also some key info in the chat function on here, so you can look at those if you would find that helpful. So there's lots to do, lots to cover. So I'm going to introduce you now to the Lloyd's Register Foundation team working on Maritime Connected. We have Jan Peshidatek, Director of Technologies, Olivia Swift, Head of Maritime Systems, Chris White, Head of Programme Delivery, and Candice Bentel and Lydia Woolley, Programme Managers for Maritime Connected. So we're going to start with Jan, who's going to give us an introduction and an overview of the foundation and what we do.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jan. I'm Director of Technologies here at Lloyd's Register Foundation. And Lloyd's Register Foundation, we're a UK registered charity with a global remit and a social purpose. Our social purpose is also our legal reason for being, which is to enhance safety and advance public education. And we summarise that as engineering a safer world. Next slide, please. What we do is described in our strategy, and there are essentially 5 areas of our work. The first area is that we're evidence-led. We have an evidence team that tell us exactly what the real situation is from the evidence that's out there, and that helps us to be able to target what we do to make an impact in the world. We also have our Heritage Centre, and our Heritage Centre has been collecting Lloyd's Register's history since 1760. Not only do we have that history within the foundation, but we're now starting to analyse it and understand how problems of the past can inform us about the future. And those 2 areas are things that we perform ourselves. But there are 3 areas that we work with and through others. The first of these is around skilled people for safe engineering. This is where we are working with the community to make sure that people have the right training in the right places at the right time. We also have an area of safe and sustainable infrastructures. And in this area, we're looking at the physical and the digital infrastructures that are making the world into the place it is today that we rely on. And the final area of our work, and the area which is very relevant to today's call, is safer maritime systems. Next slide, please. So in the world, we have infrastructures, which could be boats, ships, ports, they could be aquaculture facilities, could be energy facilities, which are physical and digital. We have the people that are working on them that we've trained and who are ready to work on those infrastructures. But when we take those and we put them to work in the real world, they're part of a very large interconnected system. And that system can work very well, we need it, but also if we don't have that system connected properly, it can lead to some challenges that we do not expect. So thinking of the bigger system, this could include working with other organizations. This could include the changes in weather, extreme weather. It could be about other users of the oceans. There are a number of different organizations, business drivers that lead the decisions that are taken at sea and those and around the sea, around the oceans, the ocean economy. So for us, safer maritime systems is understanding how this all works, understanding where the blockers are that cause harm to happen. And from there, we try to understand what needs to change. And that is going to be through the next slide, please. Yep. So we're a small organization in the scheme of things, but we have ambitions to make big change in the world. And we do that through a number of ways. And the first one is about understanding the problem through local voices and working internationally where those problems are. And that's key to part of Maritime Connected. We want to be hearing about you, about these problems. We look at how we can influence others to act. These big changes need many people to come together to bring about a change. And that's how we look to scaling the work that we do. We also try to scale our work, but our funds are not big enough to create the big changes we want to. So we use our work to catalyze change that can help others come in and, again, make these changes happen. But through the work we do, we're also aiming to be a trusted voice. We are here to make sure that the truth is out there and that we support those that require help to have a safer maritime system. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Lydia and Candice, our programme managers, who will tell you more about the Maritime Connected call.
Thanks very much, Jan. Yes, I'm delighted to introduce the Maritime Connected funding offer. We're very excited about this one. So I'm just going to go over the key principles. What is this? So firstly, we're asking ourselves the question, how can we make the maritime system better and more connected to engineer a safer world? As Jan just described, we really acknowledge that the maritime space is a complex, vast system that includes many different parts and moving pieces. And we know throughout our work that when those things aren't connected, often that's real gaps that have a real impact on safety. So this call is about addressing those gaps and making things as safe as possible. Now that can be really broad because it's a really broad system. So that could be something like making sure that local voices, a community voice that isn't necessarily always part of the conversation, is included. It could be something like making sure a designer is speaking to an end user to make sure that what they're looking at is as safe as possible for that end user. It could be that people are working on similar things in different geographies, and by connecting together, you can improve safety. Could also be that there's a technology that works in one area of the maritime system that, if it was adapted, could work just as effectively elsewhere for safety. Just by those examples, you can probably see there's lots of range within this. But as long as we are connecting that maritime space and keeping safety at the heart of it, that's what we're trying to achieve. So to sort of summarize, we're looking at those gaps within the system and how they can be safer. We're looking at bringing relevant perspectives together, potentially those unheard voices. We're looking at safety. And within safety, we have key challenges that we're looking at. So decarbonisation, digitalisation, the impacts of climate and safety at sea are key priorities for us. But ultimately, we want through these grants to hear from you, to hear from people who are working in that maritime space. Perhaps you're already very aware of these gaps within the system. Maybe there's an idea that's always been in your mind, why aren't we connected in this way to this area? And we want this programme through small and medium grants to be a really agile and useful tool to help you plug those gaps and make things safer in the maritime space. So that is what we're looking at in a nutshell. Just want to really briefly mention that this is a pilot phase for us. So this Maritime Connected area of work is something we want to focus on in the near future. But this is our first funding call in this space. So we really want to work with you to see how it can be the most useful thing to make impact. So with that in mind, we will do this initial call. It's open for 6 months, but we will review. We want to hear from you. We want to adapt and make sure it is as agile and useful as we want it to be. So basically, come with us on this journey as we figure out how it can be as effective as possible. So I'm going to hand over to Candice now, who's going to talk through some of the practicalities of this, so who can apply and how. So over to you, Candice.
Thank you, Lydia. So these few slides will be going into details about the eligibility for the grant funding. And what I would start off will be how we can apply and who can apply. So we have listed here the following categories of organizations: registered charities, non-governmental organizations, academic institutions, non-profit organizations, and social enterprises. And as a foundation, we are guided by some principles in terms of the organizations that we work with and the grants that we give out, and also being compliant with regulatory standards. So this is something to note as we go through the slides. Next slide, please. In terms of what we are looking for, we have some principles that are key to the proposals that will be coming through. The first is on inclusion. And when we talk about inclusion, we are looking at multiple perspectives coming through from especially underrepresented voices. My colleague Lydia mentioned some relevant voices that will be key to the calls that will be coming through, the proposals that will be coming through. So here we are looking at voices that usually would not be in the room when we are talking about safety in maritime, voices that will not have their perspectives shared when we are talking about the gaps in safety in maritime as well. So these are the kind of people and groups that we are looking for. Specifically, I'm talking about women, young people, coastal communities, for instance, and maritime educators. We also have a key principle of collaboration and cooperation. Here we are looking at diversity of stakeholders across the ocean community. And it's very key to have different perspectives, as has been mentioned earlier. Maritime is very broad, so it would be very good to have key perspectives coming through from the various stakeholders, bringing on board creatively ideas relating to maritime safety, the challenges and the gaps, and how innovative solutions can be put together to address maritime safety. We have another key principle of local perspectives on global challenges. As a foundation, we have some emerging hubs that we are currently working with in 7 countries: Ghana, Brazil, Bangladesh, Kenya, India, Philippines, and Indonesia. And we are looking to have proposals coming through from these emerging economies. That notwithstanding, we also encourage applications from across other systems that are also heavily involved in ensuring safety in maritime. Also, as a foundation, it would be great to have proposals that are coming through that are evidence-based. So proposals that support evidence and are backed by evidence, and also more importantly, are looking to get new evidence coming through from the projects that will be coming through from the proposals. And then in terms of visibility, we also have the fact that we are looking for proposals that will help us gain better awareness and understanding of ocean activities. Here we're talking about its interaction, the gaps, the safety issues, and then the innovations in terms of working in maritime. We also have reflection and learning. And what I want to dwell on here has to do with the fact that the projects will give us an opportunity to reflect on the work we're doing, the support we have given to projects so far. And as Lydia rightly said, from the trialing, we might have some new perspectives coming through in terms of how we can run this call better. And lastly, in terms of lasting change, we look to proposals that will identify and address the causes of safety challenges to achieve results that will bring lasting impact. Next slide, please. So the question here is, what will we fund? And on the website, we have provided more details about the kind of projects and activities that we're looking to fund. But I'll delve a bit more deeply here, talking about the fact that we're looking for proposals that will give us strong collaborations across different voices, across different systems in maritime to improve safety, identify safety gaps, raise awareness, and share perspectives, and ultimately lead to sustainable outcomes in the maritime industry. So when we talk about workshops and convenings, do you have an idea, for instance, that if you convene with other voices in the room, you'll be able to share perspectives that will bring some solutions in terms of maritime safety? We're looking at qualitative research, travel to key events such as conferences where ordinarily underrepresented voices will not be present in the room to share their perspectives or be part of the international agenda when it comes to maritime safety. And then when we talk about collaborations and joint advocacy, could you be part of a proposal or activity that will raise more awareness about safety in maritime, about initiatives that will bring more voices to the room to address issues related to maritime? Next slide, please. What will we not fund? So proposals to be considered out of scope. And earlier on, when Jan did the introduction, he talked about the work of the foundation as a charity. So works that do not align with the foundation's charitable strategy will not be considered. We will also not consider works that do not align to the Maritime Connected initiative that Lydia has shared some key principles about. We will also not consider works that do not include unheard voices because these are very key. In terms of Maritime Connected, we're talking about connecting various systems and people to be able to work together. So it would be great to have different unheard voices as part of the proposals that are coming through. We will also not consider works that do not have a potential for real-world impact. As has been articulated earlier, we are looking for proposals that are connecting the gaps, that are connecting people and not working in isolation. So we want works that will have a potential for real-world impact beyond the limited scope in which it is working. Applications as well that include requests for general hardware or IT equipment will not be considered. In this case, we would want to say that if the IT or equipment being requested for is specialist in nature and will be key to delivery of the project, that will be considered on a case-by-case basis. And lastly, an activity that directly benefits only the individual or applicant will not be considered. Next slide, please. I think the interesting part here is the amount involved in terms of the projects that will be coming through and the funding request. So it's good to share that we have a funding range from as low as £2,000 to as high as £60,000. And why do we have this? We do acknowledge that in terms of maritime connection and in terms of maritime conversations, even the smallest projects can have the biggest impact. So we are encouraging applications that would need funding just as low as 2,000 to make this happen. And then we could also have applications that are medium-sized as high as 60,000. And let's also bear in mind that with this funding range, when we are doing the reviews, depending on the funding amount that has come through, it could affect the timing of the response to the application that has been put through. We have a timeline of 6 months, which is a trialing stage. And so the funding call has been open till the 6th of February 2026. And then as a foundation, we will support the dissemination and publicity of project outputs and outcomes to key stakeholders and relevant groups that are interested in maritime safety and even the wider community. Next slide, please. Now let's talk a bit more about the actual application process. How do you apply? In terms of application, we have a portal on our website, which is called FlexiGrant. So to begin with, applicants are encouraged to register via FlexiGrant to be able to submit an application. But once the registration has been done as well, there's what we call an eligibility checker, where we will ask you some few questions in relation to the application that you want to submit. And this is basically to confirm if you meet the criteria for this call. Once that has been done and you do qualify, you'll be asked to complete the application process and submit your full application. The applications that meet the criteria will be reviewed by the foundation team. As has been mentioned already, this is going to be on a rolling basis in terms of the applications that will be submitted. Final decisions will be at the sole discretion of the foundation. So in sum, this is how the whole process will be for those that are interested in applying to the Maritime Connected call.